The wrench slipped from my grease-stained fingers and clattered onto the concrete floor of my garage at exactly 11:47 p.m. I know the time because that's when my entire world shifted on its axis, courtesy of my wife Lauren's voice drifting through the thin walls separating our house from my workshop. "If your dad goes to that stupid bachelor party tomorrow night, I'm spending the evening with Derek," she told our 19-year-old daughter Becca. "He needs to learn that actions have consequences." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I froze under the hood of Mrs. Patterson's ancient Honda Civic, my heart hammering against my ribs like a piston with a broken timing belt. Derek. Her ex-boyfriend from law school. The same Derek who'd been sliding into her text messages for the past 3 months, always under the guise of business networking and professional development opportunities. Nothing like a little emotional blackmail to spice up a Thursday night in suburban Minneapolis. I'm Jake Morrison, 42 years old, owner of Morrison's Auto Repair on the industrial side of town. I've got calloused hands, a receding hairline, and 23 years of marriage to a woman who used to laugh at my jokes. These days, Lauren Hartwell Morrison, she kept her maiden name for her law practice, looks at me like I'm a stain on her designer blouses. "Mom, that's kind of harsh," Becca's voice carried through the wall. "Dad's just trying to support Uncle Mick. Your father," Lauren's tone could have frozen antifreeze, "has been prioritizing his drinking buddies over his family for months. Maybe it's time he understood what neglect feels like." I wiped my hands on my coveralls and stepped outside into the crisp October air. Through our kitchen window, I could see Lauren pacing in her power suit, still dressed for success at nearly midnight. Her blonde hair was pulled back in that severe bun she wore to court, and she was gesturing with her wine glass like she was addressing a jury. 23 years ago, I'd fallen in love with a girl who wore my letterman jacket and dreamed of changing the world. Now I was married to a stranger who measured every conversation in billable hours and social climbing opportunities. My phone buzzed. A text from Mick Patterson, my best friend since high school, the groom-to-be, and, coincidentally, Mrs. Patterson's son. "Dude, you better see this." Attached was a screenshot of Lauren's Instagram story from 2 hours ago, a photo of her and Derek at some upscale downtown bar, both of them laughing over martinis. The caption read, "Networking never felt so good. Legal Eagles. Power couple. Power couple," while I was home fixing cars and microwaving leftover pizza. I stared at that photo until my eyes burned. Derek looked exactly like what Central Casting would order for successful lawyer number 2. Perfectly styled hair, expensive suit, teeth that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. He was everything I wasn't: sophisticated, wealthy, and apparently available for late-night networking sessions with my wife. The kitchen window slid open above me. "Jake?" Lauren's voice cut through the night air. "Are you lurking out there?" "Just getting some air," I called back, pocketing my phone. "Finishing up Mrs. Patterson's Honda." "It's almost midnight. Come inside." I looked up at her silhouette framed in the warm kitchen light. "In a minute. We need to talk." Those 4 words. In 23 years of marriage, "we need to talk," had never preceded good news. It was the verbal equivalent of a check engine light. Something was definitely broken, and the repair was going to be expensive. I climbed the back steps and found Lauren standing by our kitchen island, still holding her wine glass. The granite countertop was covered with legal briefs, and her laptop was open to what looked like case files. Even at midnight, she was working. "Mick's bachelor party is tomorrow," I said, settling onto one of the bar stools. "I already told you I'd be there. And I already told you what would happen if you went. You're serious about Derek." She took a sip of wine and studied me over the rim of her glass. "Deadly serious." "Why?" "Because you've been taking me for granted, Jake. When's the last time we went out together? When's the last time you put on something nicer than coveralls and took me somewhere that doesn't serve food in baskets?" I thought about it. She had a point. Between the shop, the bills, and her increasingly demanding schedule at the law firm, we'd fallen into a routine of ships passing in the night. But threatening to sleep with her ex seemed like a nuclear option for what felt like a conventional problem. So this is about dinner dates? This is about priorities. Lauren set down her glass with more force than necessary. Mick's had 3 bachelor parties already. 3. But you haven't missed a single one. Meanwhile, I had to attend the partners' gala alone last month because you were too tired from work. That was different. You sprung that on me with 2 days' notice. And Mick's been planning this party for how long? She had me there. 6 months. Ever since his divorce was finalized and he'd started dating Rebecca, his trainer from the gym. Lauren, we can work this out without involving Derek. Can we? She leaned against the counter, and for a moment she looked like the girl I'd married. Tired. Vulnerable. Human. Because I feel like I've been trying to get your attention for months, and nothing's worked. Threatening to cheat on me isn't the solution. It got your attention, didn't it? I stared at her. In the harsh fluorescent light of our kitchen, I could see the fine lines around her eyes, the exhaustion she hid behind expensive makeup during the day. When had we become these people? When had we started using threats instead of talking? If you go to that party tomorrow night, she said quietly, I'm going to Derek's apartment, and I'm not coming home until Sunday. And if I don't go? Then we'll talk. Really talk. Maybe drive up to the lake house for the weekend. Just us. The lake house. We'd bought it during the good years, when the shop was thriving and Lauren was making partner track at her firm. We used to spend entire weekends there. No phones, no work, just us and the water and the kind of silence that felt comfortable instead of loaded. I looked at my wife, really looked at her. She was offering me an ultimatum, but underneath the threat, I could hear something else. Desperation. Like this was her last play in a game I didn't even realize we were playing. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Mick. Bro, you see Lauren's story? She's playing games. Don't let her win. Don't let her win. Like our marriage was a competition instead of a partnership. I stood up and walked to the kitchen window, looking out at my garage where Mrs. Patterson's Honda sat half-repaired. In the morning, she'd pick it up and pay me in cash, probably with a plate of her famous chocolate chip cookies as a bonus. Simple transaction, honest work. No games, no ultimatums, no threats. Jake? I turned back to Lauren. She was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. I'm going to the party, I said. Something flickered across her face. Surprise? Disappointment? Relief? Then I guess we both know what happens next. She closed her laptop, gathered her papers, and walked past me toward the stairs. At the doorway, she paused. For what it's worth, Jake, I hoped you'd choose differently. For what it's worth, Lauren, so did I. She disappeared upstairs, and I heard our bedroom door close with a soft click that sounded like a period at the end of a very long sentence. I pulled out my phone and opened Lauren's Instagram story again. Derek's smile seemed even smugger in the harsh kitchen light. I screenshotted the image and sent it to Mick with a message. Game on. Friday morning arrived gray and drizzling, the kind of October weather that makes you want to crawl back under the covers and pretend the world doesn't exist. Unfortunately, the world had other plans, starting with Mrs. Patterson showing up at 7 a.m. sharp for her Honda. You look terrible, dear, she said, counting out crumpled 20s while I finished tightening her alternator belt. Everything all right at home? Mrs. Patterson had been bringing her cars to me for 15 years. She'd also been Mick's mom for 38 years, which meant she had a supernatural ability to detect family drama from 3 counties away. Just tired, I lied, wiping my hands on a shop rag. Late night. She handed me the cash plus a Tupperware container that smelled like heaven. Chocolate chip cookies, Still warm, and Jake? Yeah? Whatever's going on with you and Lauren, don't do anything stupid at Mick's party tonight. I stared at her. Did Mick tell you something? Honey, I raised 4 boys. I know the look of a man about to make a decision he'll regret for the rest of his life. She patted my cheek with a hand that smelled like vanilla and motor oil. Be smart. After she left, I sat in my office eating cookies and staring at my phone. Lauren hadn't come down for breakfast. She'd left for work while I was outside moving cars around, and the only evidence of her existence was a coffee mug in the sink and a note on the counter. Working late. Don't wait up. Don't wait up. On the night she'd threatened to sleep with her ex. The morning crawled by in a haze of oil changes and brake jobs. Around noon, my daughter Becca showed up with a bag from the deli down the street. Mom sent lunch, she said, settling into the plastic chair across from my desk. Turkey and Swiss, your favorite. Becca looked like a younger version of Lauren. Same blonde hair, same sharp blue eyes, same ability to see right through whatever bullshit you were trying to sell. She was home for fall break from the University of Minnesota, where she was studying communications and, according to her social media presence, advanced partying. She also sent me to talk sense into you. Did she now? Dad, what are you doing? I unwrapped the sandwich and took a bite. Turkey, Swiss, mustard, pickles. Lauren remembered exactly how I liked it, which somehow made everything worse. I'm eating lunch with my daughter. You know what I mean? This thing with Mom and Derek? Your mother made her choice. I'm making mine. Becca leaned forward, her voice dropping to the tone she'd used since she was 5 years old and trying to negotiate for extra bedtime stories. Dad, she doesn't want to do this. She's trying to get your attention. Well, she's got it. By threatening to cheat? Come on, you know Mom better than that. Did I? 3 months ago, I would have agreed with Becca. 3 months ago, I thought I knew exactly who Lauren was and what she was capable of. But 3 months ago, Lauren wasn't staying out until midnight with her ex-boyfriend and calling it networking. Your mom's a grown woman, Becca. She can make her own choices. And you're okay with those choices? I set down the sandwich and really looked at my daughter. When had she gotten so adult? When had she started asking the kinds of questions that didn't have easy answers? No, I said finally. I'm not okay with any of this, but I'm not going to be manipulated either. So you're going to the party. I'm going to the party. Becca sighed and pulled out her phone. Mom's not going to like this. What are you doing? Texting her, giving her a heads up. Becca, don't. But she was already typing, her thumbs flying across the screen with the speed of her generation. A few seconds later, my phone buzzed. Lauren, I see you've made your decision. I've made mine too. I showed the text to Becca, who had the decency to look guilty. Maybe she's bluffing, she said weakly. Your mother doesn't bluff. At 6 p.m., I closed the shop and drove home to shower and change. The house felt different, charged, like the air before a thunderstorm. Lauren's car was in the driveway, but the lights were off except for the glow coming from our bedroom window. I found her in our walk-in closet, standing in front of the full-length mirror in a black dress I'd never seen before. It was sophisticated, expensive-looking, and designed to make a statement. The statement being, you had your chance. You look nice, I said from the doorway. She met my eyes in the mirror. Thank you. New dress? I bought it for the partners' gala, the one you missed. Right. Another point in the scoreboard of our failing marriage. Lauren, we don't have to do this. She turned around, and I was struck by how beautiful she still was. 23 years, and she could still make my heart skip like a teenager's. Yes, she said quietly. We do. Why? Because I've been invisible to you for months, Jake. Because you choose everyone else over me every single time. Because I'm tired of being married to someone who treats me like an afterthought. That's not... When's my birthday? The question hit me like a sucker punch. What? My birthday. When is it? October 15th. It's the 18th. Tomorrow. And you forgot, didn't you? Just like you forgot our anniversary last month. Just like you forgot about the partners' gala. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. She was right. I had forgotten. Between the shop's busy season and the stress of keeping up with bills, I'd completely lost track of dates that used to be circled in red on every calendar we owned. Lauren, I'm sorry. I know you didn't. That's the problem. She walked past me into the bedroom and picked up a small overnight bag from the bed. You're really doing this. We're both really doing this. I followed her downstairs, watching her move through our house like she was already gone. She grabbed her keys from the hook by the door and paused with her hand on the doorknob. Jake? Yeah? I love you. I need you to know that. But I can't keep living like this. And then she was gone, leaving me standing in our foyer with the echo of the closing door and the faint scent of her perfume. I stood there for a long time, staring at the space where my wife had been. Then I grabbed my keys and headed for Mick's bachelor party, because apparently we were both determined to burn our marriage to the ground. Mick's bachelor party was being held at O'Malley's, a dive bar on the east side that hadn't been updated since the Carter administration. The kind of place where the beer was cheap, the music was loud, and nobody asked uncomfortable questions about your life choices. I arrived at 8:30 to find the party already in full swing. Mick was holding court at the bar, wearing a ridiculous groom t-shirt and regaling anyone who'd listen with stories about his bride-to-be, Rebecca. Jake! He spotted me across the crowded room and waved me over. I was starting to think you weren't coming. Wouldn't miss it, I said, accepting a beer from the bartender. How's the condemned man feeling? Like the luckiest bastard alive. Mick grinned and clapped me on the shoulder. Rebecca's amazing, man. Smart, funny, puts up with my bullshit. I can't believe she said yes. I took a long pull of beer and tried to ignore the irony. Here was Mick, glowing with happiness about his upcoming marriage, while mine was imploding in real time. That's great, buddy. Really happy for you. You okay? You look like someone died. Just tired. Long day at the shop. Mick studied my face with the intensity of someone who'd known me for 27 years. This about Lauren? Before I could answer, Tommy Rodriguez, one of our old high school friends, appeared at my elbow with a shot glass in each hand. Morrison, about time you showed up. We're doing shots for the groom. I accepted the shot, something that tasted like regret and bad decisions, and tried to focus on the conversation swirling around me. Tommy was telling a story about his latest dating disaster. Pete Williams was complaining about his ex-wife's lawyer. Normal guy talk for a normal bachelor party, except nothing about tonight felt normal. Around 10 p.m., my phone started buzzing. Text messages, one after another. Derek. Thanks for the evening off, Jake. Lauren's great company. Another buzz. Derek. She's even more beautiful than I remembered. And another. Derek. Don't wait up. I stared at the messages, my vision blurring slightly from the beer and shots. The bastard was taunting me, sending me real-time updates on his evening with my wife. Jake? Mick appeared beside me, concern written across his face. What's wrong? I showed him the messages. His expression darkened as he read. What the hell is this? Lauren's revenge. For what? For being here instead of home. Mick grabbed my phone and scrolled through the messages again. This Derek guy is a real piece of work. He's her ex from law school. Apparently he's also her current... whatever this is. Jake, you need to go home. Why? So I can catch them together? No thanks. So you can fight for your marriage. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. My marriage ended the minute she walked out that door tonight. This is just the funeral. Mick was quiet for a moment, studying me with those sharp brown eyes that had gotten him out of more trouble than they'd gotten him into. You want to know what I think? Not particularly. I think you're scared. Of what? Of finding out that she's serious, that this isn't just a game or a threat, that she's actually done with you. He was right, and we both knew it. I was terrified. Terrified that 23 years of marriage could end with a series of text messages from a smug lawyer with perfect teeth. So what do? Go home, talk to her, fight for what you want. And if it's too late, then at least you'll know. I looked around O'Malley's, at the guys I'd known since high school, at the cheap beer and cheaper decorations, at the life I'd been clinging to while my marriage fell apart. I'm sorry, Mick. I should have been a better friend tonight. You're here. That's what matters. But we both knew it wasn't enough. I'd chosen the party over my wife, and now I was paying the price. I left O'Malley's at 10:45 and drove home through empty streets, my phone silent in the passenger seat. No more messages from Derek, no calls from Lauren, just the sound of my truck's engine and the voice in my head telling me I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. Our house was dark when I pulled into the driveway. Lauren's car was still gone. I sat in my truck for a long time, staring at the windows of the home we'd built together, wondering if she was coming back. At midnight, I gave up waiting and went inside. The house felt enormous and empty, full of echoes and memories and the ghost of my wife's perfume. I poured myself a whiskey and sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. I could call her. I could apologize. I could beg her to come home. Instead, I finished my drink and went to bed alone, because some mistakes are too big to fix with phone calls and apologies. And somewhere across town, my wife was making mistakes of her own. I woke up at 6 a.m. to the sound of my phone buzzing against the nightstand. For a split second, I thought it might be Lauren calling to explain, to apologize, to tell me she'd made a terrible mistake and was coming home. Instead, it was a text from an unknown number, with a photo attached. The image made my blood freeze. Lauren and Derek, clearly taken through a restaurant window. She was laughing at something he'd said, her hand resting on his arm in a gesture that looked intimate and familiar. They were seated close together in what looked like an expensive downtown bistro, the kind of place that required reservations and served food I couldn't pronounce. The message below the photo read, "Thought you should see this. A friend." A friend. Right. In my experience, anonymous friends were usually people with their own agenda, but the photo was real enough. Timestamp showed 9:47 p.m. last night, right around the time I was doing shots with Mick and pretending my world wasn't falling apart. I stumbled to the kitchen and started coffee with shaking hands. The house felt different in the morning light. Not empty exactly, but hollow, like something essential had been removed, leaving everything else slightly off balance. Lauren's note from yesterday was still on the counter. "Working late, don't wait up." I crumpled it and threw it in the trash, then immediately retrieved it and smoothed it out again. Evidence. Of what? I wasn't sure, but it felt important to keep. The coffee maker gurgled to life just as I heard a car in the driveway. My heart jumped, but it was only Becca's Honda Civic, not Lauren's BMW. A minute later, my daughter walked through the back door carrying a bag from McDonald's and wearing the expression of someone who'd been elected to deliver bad news. "Brought breakfast," she said, setting the bag on the counter. "Figured you might need it." "Thanks." I poured coffee into 2 mugs and handed her one. "What's the damage?" "What do you mean?" "Come on, Becca. You're here at 6:30 in the morning with McDonald's and sympathy. What did your mother tell you?" Becca wrapped her hands around the coffee mug and studied the steam rising from it like it held the answers to life's great mysteries. "She called me around midnight. She was upset." "Upset how? Guilty upset or angry upset?" "Both, I think. She kept saying she didn't know if she'd made the right choice." I felt something loosen in my chest. Regret. That was something I could work with. Did she say anything else? Dad. Becca looked up at me with those blue eyes that were so much like her mother's. She spent the night at Derek's apartment. The looseness in my chest tightened back up, harder than before. I'd known it was coming. Lauren had made her intentions clear, but hearing it confirmed felt like taking a punch to the solar plexus. She told you that? She didn't have to. I could hear him in the background when she called, making coffee, talking about breakfast plans. Becca's voice was small, like she was 12 years old again, and trying to understand why her parents were fighting. I'm sorry, Dad. I sat down heavily at the kitchen table and unwrapped one of the breakfast sandwiches. It tasted like cardboard and regret. It's not your fault, sweetheart. Isn't it? I'm the one who texted her yesterday. I'm the one who told her you were really going to the party. Your mother made her own choice. We both did. Becca joined me at the table, but she didn't touch her food. So what happens now? I don't know. It was the most honest thing I'd said in months. I genuinely had no idea what came next. Did Lauren come home today and pretend nothing happened? Did we sit down like adults and discuss the terms of our divorce? Did I pack my bags and move into the apartment above the shop? Maybe you should call her. And say what? Thanks for the update on your night with Derek? Say you're sorry. Say you want to work things out. What if I'm not sorry? The words surprised me as much as they surprised Becca. But sitting there in my kitchen, looking at the photo of my wife having dinner with another man, I realized I wasn't sure I regretted going to Mick's party. I was hurt, angry, confused, but not sorry. Dad, you don't mean that. Don't I? Your mother gave me an ultimatum, Becca. Choose her or choose my friends. What kind of marriage requires that choice? The kind where one person feels neglected and the other person doesn't notice. Ouch. My 19-year-old daughter had just delivered a more accurate diagnosis of my marriage than 6 months of awkward conversations with Lauren. Point taken. She loves you, Dad, but she's tired of competing with everyone else for your attention. So she sleeps with her ex-boyfriend? So she does something desperate to make you notice her. I stared at my daughter, wondering when she'd gotten so wise and why her wisdom had to hurt so much. What would you do? If you were me? Becca was quiet for a long moment, picking at the edge of her coffee cup. I'd fight for her, but I'd also make sure she was fighting for me too. Before I could ask what that meant, my phone rang. Lauren's name appeared on the screen, and suddenly the kitchen felt too small and too quiet. Answer it, Becca whispered. I swiped to accept the call and put the phone to my ear. Jake? Lauren's voice sounded tired, uncertain. I'm here. Can we talk? I'm coming home. Okay. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The line went dead, and I set the phone on the table with hands that weren't quite steady. She's coming home, I told Becca. That's good, right? I don't know. We'll see. Becca stood up and grabbed her keys from the counter. I'm going to make myself scarce. Give you guys some privacy. You don't have to. Yeah, I do. Whatever happens next, it needs to happen between you and Mom, not you, Mom, and your adult daughter who still comes home for laundry money. She kissed my cheek and headed for the door, then paused with her hand on the knob. Dad? For what it's worth, I think you're both idiots. But I also think you love each other enough to figure this out. And then she was gone, leaving me alone with 20 minutes to figure out what I was going to say to the woman who'd just spent the night with another man. I poured another cup of coffee and tried to organize my thoughts. Anger, hurt, confusion, love. They were all tangled up together, impossible to separate. In 20 minutes, Lauren would walk through that door, and we'd have to decide whether our marriage was worth saving or if last night had been the final nail in the coffin. Outside, the October morning was gray and cold, matching my mood perfectly. Somewhere across town, Derek was probably making breakfast for my wife, thinking he'd won some kind of victory. What he didn't know, what none of us knew yet, was that this was just the beginning. Lauren arrived exactly 20 minutes later, pulling into our driveway like she was approaching a crime scene. Through the kitchen window, I watched her sit in her BMW for a full minute before getting out, smoothing her clothes, and walking toward the house with the careful steps of someone navigating a minefield. She was wearing the same black dress from last night, now wrinkled and somehow smaller looking in the harsh morning light. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she wasn't wearing makeup. She looked vulnerable and guilty and heartbreakingly beautiful. I met her at the back door, and we stood there for a moment, studying each other like strangers. "Hi," she said finally. "Hi. Can I come in? It's your house, too." She stepped inside and immediately went to the coffee maker, pouring herself a cup with the automatic movements of 23 years of routine. Her hands were shaking slightly. "Jake, Did you sleep with him?" The question hung in the air between us like smoke. Lauren's cup froze halfway to her lips. "Do you really want to know?" I asked, didn't I? She set down the coffee and turned to face me fully. Her blue eyes were red-rimmed with exhaustion and something that might have been tears. "No, I didn't sleep with him." I felt my knees go weak with relief. "But you wanted to." Yes. Maybe. I don't know." She wrapped her arms around herself like she was cold. "I wanted to want to. Does that make sense?" "Not really. I wanted to feel desired again, wanted, important to someone." "You're important to me." "Am I? When's the last time you told me I was beautiful? When's the last time you kissed me like you meant it, instead of like you were checking it off a to-do list?" I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it. She was right. Somewhere along the way, we'd stopped being lovers and become roommates who shared bills and parenting duties. "So you went to Derek's apartment to feel important?" "I went to Derek's apartment to hurt you the way you've been hurting me." "And did it work?" Lauren laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Oh, it worked. I felt terrible from the moment I walked through his door. He made dinner, opened expensive wine, told me how beautiful I was, how much he'd missed me, everything I thought I wanted to hear. But he wasn't you, and I didn't want him. I wanted my husband to fight for me." I leaned against the counter, trying to process what she was telling me. "So what happened?" "We talked. I cried. He was actually very sweet about it, made up the guest room for me, let me call Becca, didn't pressure me for anything I wasn't ready to give. The perfect gentleman. Don't be sarcastic, Jake. It doesn't suit you." "Sorry. I'm still processing the fact that my wife spent the night at another man's apartment. And I'm still processing the fact that my husband chose a bachelor party over saving our marriage." We stared at each other across our kitchen. 23 years of love and resentment and accumulated small hurts stretched between us like a tightrope. "So where does that leave us?" I asked. "I don't know. Where do you want it to leave us?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. The easy answer was to say I wanted things to go back to the way they were before, but the truth was more complicated. The way things were before had led us to this moment, to ultimatums and threats, and my wife sleeping in another man's guest room. I want us to figure out how to be married to each other instead of just living in the same house. Something shifted in Lauren's expression. The defensive walls came down a little. "I want that too. But I also want you to understand that I'm not going to be manipulated, not by ultimatums, not by threats, not by you spending the night at your ex-boyfriend's apartment. It wasn't manipulation, Jake. It was desperation." Same result. Lauren was quiet for a moment, staring into her coffee cup like it held the secrets of the universe. "You're right. What I did was wrong. I was angry and hurt, and I wanted you to feel what I was feeling. But threatening to cheat on you, that wasn't fair." "No, it wasn't. I'm sorry." 2 words. Simple. But they carried the weight of acknowledgement, of responsibility, of a woman who was brave enough to admit her mistakes. "I'm sorry too," I said. "For forgetting your birthday. For missing the gala. for making you feel invisible. We're quite a pair, aren't we? The worst. Lauren smiled then, the first real smile I'd seen from her in months. It transformed her face, made her look like the girl I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. Jake? Yeah? I love you. Even when I'm furious with you, even when I want to throw things at your head, I love you. I love you too. Even when you're threatening to sleep with Derek. About Derek? What about him? He wants to see me again. He thinks last night was the beginning of something. I felt anger flare in my chest, hot and immediate. And what did you tell him? I told him I needed time to think. Time to think about what? About whether my marriage is worth saving. The anger turned to ice. And what's your conclusion? Lauren set down her coffee cup and walked over to where I was standing. She stopped just close enough that I could smell her perfume, could see the flecks of gold in her blue eyes. My conclusion is that I don't want Derek. I want you. But I want the you who used to bring me flowers for no reason. I want the you who used to dance with me in the kitchen while dinner was cooking. I want the you who made me feel like the most important person in your world. That guy's still here. He's just been buried under bills and work and 23 years of routine. Then help me dig him out. She reached up and touched my face, her fingers tracing the line of my jaw like she was memorizing it. Can we try again? Really try this time? I covered her hand with mine and leaned into her touch. Yeah, we can try. Good, because I have something to tell you. What? Derek sent you those text messages last night, the taunting ones. I pulled back to look at her. What do you mean? I saw him typing them. I told him to stop, but he said you deserved to know that I'd chosen him over you, even though I hadn't. Even though I was sitting there crying about my husband. The ice in my chest turned back to fire. He sent me fake messages? Not fake exactly, but designed to hurt you, to make you think we were together. Son of a bitch. Jake, don't... But I was already reaching for my keys, already planning the drive to Derek's downtown apartment, already imagining what I was going to say to the man who'd played games with my marriage. Jake, stop. Lauren's voice cut through my rage. I turned to look at her. Don't give him the satisfaction. Don't let him turn you into someone you're not. He manipulated both of us. Yes, he did. And the best revenge is to not let it work. She was right, but that didn't make the anger any easier to swallow. Besides, Lauren continued, I have a better idea. What kind of idea? The kind that involves you, me, and a weekend at the lake house. No phones, no work, no Derek. Just us figuring out how to be married again. I looked at my wife, really looked at her. She was offering me exactly what I'd wanted, a chance to start over, to rebuild what we'd almost lost. What about Derek? What about him? He can wait for a phone call that's never coming. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in months. I like that plan. Good, because we leave in an hour. An hour? I need to arrange coverage for the shop, pack. Jake? Yeah? The shop will survive without you for one weekend. Your marriage might not. She was right, again. The shop had been my excuse for everything. Missed dinners, forgotten anniversaries, choosing work over the woman I loved. 1 hour, I agreed. Lauren smiled and headed for the stairs, then paused on the bottom step. Oh, and Jake? Happy birthday to me. It's today, in case you forgot again. I had forgotten, again. But this time, I had a chance to make it right. Happy birthday, beautiful. I'll make it up to you. I'm counting on it. As she disappeared upstairs, I pulled out my phone and called Mick. Jake, how'd it go with Lauren? We're going to be okay, but I need a favor. Can you cover the shop for the weekend? Of course. Everything all right? Everything's about to be. I hung up and started planning the best birthday weekend of Lauren's life. Derek could wait for his phone call that would never come. Some battles you win by fighting, Others you win by walking away with the person you love. The weekend at the lake house was exactly what Lauren and I needed. We talked, we laughed, we remembered why we'd fallen in love in the first place. We made plans to go to counseling, to schedule regular date nights, to stop taking each other for granted. It felt like a new beginning. But Derek wasn't done with us yet. I found out Monday morning when I opened the shop to discover my front window had been spray painted with the word loser in bright red letters. Subtle, real, mature. But it was the note tucked under the windshield wiper of my truck that really got my attention. Your wife knows what she's missing. Too bad you're too pathetic to keep her satisfied. D. I stood in my parking lot, reading the note over and over, feeling my weekend zen evaporate like steam. This guy just couldn't let it go. Lauren had made her choice. We were working things out, but Derek apparently thought he still had a shot, or maybe he was just pissed off that his manipulation hadn't worked. I called Lauren on my way to the hardware store for window cleaner and paint remover. Jake, what's wrong? Derek paid a visit to the shop last night, left me a love note. What kind of love note? I read her the message. The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Lauren? I'm here. I can't believe he did that. Believe it. Your ex-boyfriend is a real class act. He's not my boyfriend, ex or otherwise. What he is about to get a very unpleasant phone call from me. Don't. What? Don't call him. Don't give him what he wants. Which is? A reaction. Proof that he's getting under our skin. Lauren was quiet for a moment. So what do? We ignore him. We focus on us. We let him figure out on his own that the game is over. And if he doesn't get the message, then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But Derek wasn't the type to take hints. Over the next week, the harassment escalated. More notes on my truck, hang-up calls to the shop, a Yelp review claiming I'd overcharged him for work I'd never done on a car he didn't own. The final straw came Friday evening. I was locking up the shop when I noticed Lauren's BMW in the parking lot across the street. She was supposed to be at home, cooking dinner for our first official date night since the reconciliation. I walked over and tapped on her window. She rolled it down, and I could see she'd been crying. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "Derek called me at work today. He said he had something important to tell me about you, something I needed to know before we tried to work things out." "And you believed him?" "No, but he was so insistent, so desperate. I thought maybe if I met with him one more time, told him face to face that it was over, he'd finally leave us alone." I looked across the street at the upscale wine bar where Derek had apparently suggested they meet. Through the window, I could see him sitting at a corner table, checking his watch and looking smug. "How long have you been sitting out here?" 20 minutes. I keep telling myself to go in there and get it over with, but I don't want to. I don't want to hear whatever lies he's planning to tell me about you. I don't want to give him another chance to manipulate me. I just want him to leave us alone. I studied my wife's face in the dim light of the parking lot. She looked exhausted, frustrated, and completely done with Derek's games. "So don't go in." "What?" "Don't go in. Let him sit there and wait. Let him figure out that you're not coming." "But he'll just call again, or show up at my office, or find some other way to harass us." She was right. Derek had shown no signs of giving up gracefully. If anything, his behavior was getting more erratic, more desperate. Then maybe it's time to send him a message he can't ignore. What kind of message? I looked at the wine bar, at Derek sitting alone at his table, probably rehearsing whatever sob story or lie he'd planned to tell Lauren. An idea began forming in my mind. Not a good idea, necessarily, but a satisfying one. The kind that involves me, him, and a very public conversation about boundaries. "Jake, no, don't do anything stupid." "Who says it's going to be stupid?" "The look on your face says it's going to be stupid." I kissed her forehead and handed her my keys. "Go home. Start dinner. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Jake, trust me. Before she could argue, I was walking across the street toward the wine bar. Behind me, I heard Lauren's car start up, but I didn't turn around. I had business to finish. The wine bar was exactly the kind of place Derek would choose. Expensive, pretentious, full of people who thought their problems could be solved with the right vintage of Chardonnay. I spotted him immediately, still sitting at his corner table, still checking his phone for messages from Lauren that weren't coming. He looked up as I approached, and his face went through a series of expressions: surprise, confusion, and finally, smugness. Well, Jake Morrison, I was expecting your wife. I know. She sent me instead. I pulled out the chair across from him and sat down. Derek was wearing another expensive suit, his hair was perfectly styled, and he had the kind of tan that came from regular visits to a salon. Everything about him screamed money and success and the belief that he could buy whatever he wanted, including my wife. She's not coming, I continued, in case that wasn't clear. She'll change her mind, she always does. No, she won't, because she's done with you. We both are. Derek signaled the waitress for another drink. You sure about that? Because she seemed pretty interested when I called her today. She came here to tell you to leave us alone. Instead, she decided you weren't worth the effort. Ouch! Derek's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. That must sting. Your wife choosing me over you. Again. She didn't choose you. She chose to go home to her husband instead of wasting time on a pathetic ex-boyfriend who can't take no for an answer. The smile faltered slightly. Careful, Jake. You're in my territory now. I looked around the wine bar, at the crystal glasses and exposed brick walls and customers who probably spent more on lunch than I made in a day. Your territory? This place? This world, success, sophistication, everything you can't give her. You're right. I can't give her overpriced wine and pretentious conversation. What I can give her is 23 years of love, loyalty, and commitment. Things you wouldn't understand. Derek leaned back in his chair, studying me like I was a particularly interesting bug. You know what I think? I think you're scared. Scared that Lauren's finally figured out she can do better. I think you're desperate. Desperate enough to vandalize my shop, harass my wife, and make up stories about what happened between you two. What stories? The text messages you sent me. The ones designed to make me think you and Lauren were sleeping together. Derek's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, maybe, or just annoyance at being caught. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. You sent me those messages to hurt me, to make me think I'd lost Lauren to you. But here's the thing, Derek. She told me the truth. She told me you were playing games. The truth? Derek laughed. The truth is that your wife spent the night at my apartment, in my bed, and she loved every minute of it. The lie hit me like a physical blow, even though I knew that's all it was. Lauren had told me what really happened that night. The guest room, the tears, the realization that she didn't want Derek at all. But hearing him twisted into something ugly made my hands clench into fists. You're lying. Am I? Ask her about the things she said about you, about how bored she was, how unfulfilled. Ask her about the sounds she made when I was out of my chair and leaning across the table before Derek could finish the sentence. My face was inches from his, and I could see the fear in his eyes despite his bravado. Listen to me very carefully, I said quietly. You're going to stop calling my wife. You're going to stop coming by my shop. You're going to pretend we don't exist. Because if you don't, if you keep pushing this, I'm going to make your life very uncomfortable. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Derek tried to lean back, but there wasn't anywhere to go. You can't intimidate me, Jake. I know people, important people. One phone call and I can make things very difficult for you. One phone call to who? Your lawyer friends, your country club buddies? I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. See, Derek, that's the difference between us. You worry about what important people think. I worry about what's right, and what's right is protecting my family from guys like you. I straightened up and pulled a 20 out of my wallet, dropping it on the table. That's for your drink. And Derek, if I see you near my wife again, if you call her, text her, or even think about her too hard, we're going to have another conversation. One that won't be nearly as polite as this one. I turned to leave, but Derek's voice stopped me. This isn't over, Jake. I looked back at him, sitting alone at his table in his expensive suit, surrounded by his pretentious wine bar and his delusions of superiority. Yeah, it is. I walked out of the bar and into the cool October evening, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Derek could make all the threats he wanted, could play all the games he could think of. It didn't matter. Lauren was home, waiting for me. We had date night planned, counseling scheduled, and a future to build together. Derek had expensive wine and an empty apartment. I knew who'd won. I should have known Derek wouldn't give up that easily. The call came Tuesday morning while I was under the hood of a Chevy Silverado, trying to diagnose a mysterious rattling noise. Mick answered the phone at the front desk, and I could hear the concern in his voice even from across the shop. Jake, you need to take this. I wiped my hands on a shop rag and walked over to where Mick was holding the phone with an expression like he'd just been told the world was ending. Who is it? Lauren. She sounds upset. I grabbed the phone. Lauren, what's wrong? Jake, I need you to come to my office right now. Her voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear the tremor underneath. Something was very wrong. What happened? Derek happened. Just, please come. I'll explain when you get here. The line went dead, and I was already reaching for my keys. Mick, I have to go. Can you handle things here? Of course. Jake, is everything okay? I don't know, but I'm about to find out. The drive to Lauren's law firm took 15 minutes in downtown traffic, 15 minutes for my imagination to conjure up every possible disaster. Derek had shown up at her office. Derek had made a scene. Derek had done something that required my immediate presence and made my wife sound like she was barely holding it together. The law firm of Hartwell, Morrison, and Associates occupied the top 3 floors of a gleaming downtown high-rise. Lauren had made partner 5 years ago, and her name on the letterhead still made me proud every time I saw it. She'd worked her ass off to get there, and she deserved every bit of success she'd achieved. The elevator ride to the 15th floor felt like it took hours. When the doors finally opened, I was greeted by the sight of Lauren's assistant, Margaret, hovering near the reception desk with the expression of someone who'd just witnessed a car accident. Mr. Morrison? She's in her office. 3rd door on the right. I found Lauren standing behind her desk, staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the city below. She was wearing a navy blue suit that made her look powerful and professional, but her shoulders were rigid with tension. Lauren? She turned around, and I could see she'd been crying. Not the kind of tears that came from sadness, but the kind that came from rage and frustration and the feeling of being cornered. He's trying to destroy me, Jake. What do you mean? She gestured to her computer screen, which was open to what looked like a legal document. Derek filed a complaint with the State Bar Association. He's claiming I had an inappropriate relationship with a client, him, and that I used confidential information for personal gain. I felt my blood pressure spike. Can he do that? He can file whatever he wants. Whether it has merit is another question. But Jake, even a frivolous complaint can damage my reputation. It goes on my record, it gets investigated, it becomes public information. What confidential information? What client relationship? Lauren sat down heavily in her chair and rubbed her temples like she had a headache. 3 months ago, Derek asked me to review a contract for him. A real estate deal. I looked it over as a favor, didn't charge him, didn't take him on as an official client. It was maybe an hour of work. And now he's claiming what? That I advised him to back out of the deal based on insider information about zoning changes. That I used my position at the firm to give him an unfair advantage. That our personal relationship compromised my professional judgment. Is any of that true? Of course not. I told him the contract looked standard, suggested he have his own lawyer review it more thoroughly. That's it. No insider information, no unfair advantage, no inappropriate relationship. I walked around the desk and put my hands on her shoulders. She was trembling with anger. So what happens now? Now I have to respond to the complaint. I have to hire my own lawyer. I can't represent myself in this. I have to explain to my partners why my personal life is creating problems for the firm. I have to sit through an investigation and hope the Bar Association sees this for what it is, a vindictive ex trying to destroy my career. How long does that take? Months, maybe longer. And in the meantime, every potential client who Googles my name is going to see this complaint. Every opposing counsel is going to question my ethics. Every partner in this firm is going to wonder if I'm a liability. I pulled her up from the chair and wrapped my arms around her. She felt small and fragile, nothing like the confident lawyer who'd made partner at one of the city's most prestigious firms. We'll fight this. We'll prove he's lying. With what? It's his word against mine, and he's very convincing when he wants to be. He's also desperate and vindictive and stupid enough to put his motivations in writing. Lauren pulled back to look at me. What do you mean? The notes he left at my shop, the text messages, the harassment. We document everything, show a pattern of behavior, prove this is retaliation for you choosing me over him. That might not be enough. Then we make it enough. Lauren studied my face with those sharp blue eyes that had first attracted me 24 years ago. What are you thinking? I'm thinking Derek just made a very big mistake. He escalated this from personal harassment to professional destruction. He crossed a line. Jake, you can't do anything illegal. That'll just make things worse. Who said anything about illegal? Before Lauren could ask what I meant, there was a knock on her office door. Margaret peeked in, looking apologetic. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a Derek Williamson here to see you. He says it's urgent. Lauren and I exchanged glances. The son of a bitch had actually shown up at her office, probably to gloat about his complaint or make more threats. Tell him I'm not available, Lauren said. I already did. He says he'll wait. Tell him to leave or I'll call security. Actually, I said, tell him I'll be right out. Jake, no. Lauren, trust me. I'm not going to do anything stupid, but I am going to have a conversation with Derek about the consequences of his actions. What kind of consequences? I kissed her forehead and headed for the door. The legal kind. I found Derek in the reception area, looking perfectly at home in his expensive suit and confident smile. He was chatting with Margaret like they were old friends, probably trying to charm information out of her. Derek, what a surprise. He turned around, and his smile widened when he saw me. Jake, I was hoping to see Lauren, but you'll do. I'm sure I will. Let's talk. I gestured toward a conference room across the hall. Derek followed me in, and I closed the door behind us. So, Derek said, settling into one of the leather chairs like he owned the place. I assume Lauren told you about my complaint to the state bar. She did. Good. I wanted to make sure you understood the situation. Your wife's career is in my hands now. One word from me, and she could lose her license to practice law. Is that what you think? That's what I know. See, Jake, you threatened me the other day. You thought you could intimidate me into backing down, but I don't respond well to threats. I sat down across from him and pulled out my phone. Neither do I. What's that supposed to mean? Instead of answering, I opened the voice recorder app and hit record. Derek noticed the movement and frowned. What are you doing? Making sure I get an accurate record of this conversation. You know, for legal purposes. Turn that off. Why? I thought you wanted to talk about Lauren's career, about how you're planning to destroy it. Derek's confident expression faltered slightly. I'm not planning to destroy anything. I filed a legitimate complaint about unethical behavior. Right. The unethical behavior of a woman who spent 1 hour reviewing a contract for free and then refused to sleep with you. That's not what happened. No? Then why don't you tell me what did happen? For the record. Derek stared at the phone in my hand like it was a loaded gun, which, in a way, it was. Turn off the recorder, Jake. I don't think so. See, Derek, you made a mistake when you decided to escalate this to Lauren's professional life. You opened the door to discovery, to depositions, to a very public examination of your motives and your behavior. You can't prove anything. Can I? I've got the notes you left at my shop, the text messages you sent, witnesses who saw you harassing Lauren at restaurants and bars, a pretty clear pattern of stalking and retaliation. That's not stalking. What would you call it? Derek was quiet for a long moment, staring at the conference table like it held the answers to his problems. I call it trying to win back the woman I love. By destroying her career? By showing her what kind of man she married? By proving that you're not worth throwing away her future for? I leaned forward, keeping my voice calm and steady. Derek, I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you. You're going to withdraw your complaint to the state bar. You're going to apologize to Lauren for the harassment, and you're going to disappear from our lives permanently. And if I don't? If you don't, I'm going to make sure every lawyer in this city knows exactly what kind of man you are. I'm going to share these recordings with Lauren's partners, with the local bar association, with anyone who'll listen. I'm going to make you the poster child for vindictive ex-boyfriends who can't handle rejection. Derek's face had gone pale. You wouldn't. Try me. You're bluffing. I stopped the recording and played it back. Derek's voice filled the conference room, crystal clear. I filed a legitimate complaint about unethical behavior. I call it trying to win back the woman I love, by showing her what kind of man she married. Still think I'm bluffing? Derek stared at the phone, then at me, then back at the phone. The confident, smug expression was completely gone, replaced by something that looked like panic. What do you want? I want you to withdraw the complaint, today. I want a written apology to Lauren. And I want your word that you'll never contact either of us again. And if I do all that, then this recording stays between us. Nobody else has to know what a pathetic, vindictive little man you really are. Derek was quiet for a long time, weighing his options. Finally, he nodded. Fine, I'll withdraw the complaint. And the apology? I'll send it to Lauren this afternoon. And the no-contact agreement? You'll never see me again. I stood up and pocketed my phone. Good. I'm glad we could reach an understanding. Derek stood up too, straightening his expensive suit and trying to salvage what was left of his dignity. You know, Jake, you're not as stupid as you look. And you're exactly as pathetic as you look. I opened the conference room door and gestured for him to leave. He walked past me without another word, through the reception area and out of Lauren's life forever. I hoped. 15 minutes later, Lauren and I were sitting in her office, watching Derek's retreating figure disappear into the elevator. Is it over? She asked. It's over. How can you be sure? I pulled out my phone and played her the recording. By the time it finished, Lauren was smiling for the first time in days. You recorded him admitting the complaint was retaliation? I recorded him admitting a lot of things, enough to bury him if he ever tries this again. Lauren threw her arms around me and kissed me like we were teenagers again. Have I mentioned lately that I love you? Not in the last hour or so. I love you, Jake Morrison. You just saved my career. You would have figured it out. You're the lawyer in the family. But you're the one who knew how to handle Derek. You're the one who got him to confess. I held her close, breathing in the scent of her perfume and feeling the tension finally leave her body. We make a good team. The best. Outside, the October afternoon was bright and clear, full of possibility. Derek was gone, Lauren's career was safe, and our marriage was stronger than it had been in years. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. Sometimes it's just winning.